Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So in this video, I'm going to provide you guys with my driving impressions of this 2022 Lexus LX600. We'll start with a quick walk around and then I'll jump in. You guys have already seen it if you've watched my previous videos, so I'm not going to dissect the outside or inside in this video. Rather, we're just going to jump in. I'll tell you my thoughts as we take it down the road. So we have a grab handle just like the Land Cruiser, which is nice on the driver side. Foot on the brake. Kind of a high position up here, I've noticed, for the push to start. Nice startup display here. A little bit of warning. Okay. All right, team. We'll buckle up here. Take it up the road. So, reminder: this does have the 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, and unlike the iForce Max and the Tundra TRD Pro that I had recently, this does not have the giant battery pack stowed away underneath the rear passenger seats there. So a little bit less horsepower, 409 horsepower if I recall, and then 479 foot-pounds of torque. So I like the gauge cluster in this. Sleek. We have some analog gauges there on the side, as well as the integrated fully digital display there in the center. Let me roll up the window here. Get too much road noise. And we're off. Let me get the other window. Alright, now both windows are up. All windows are up. It's a very smooth and quiet ride. The Tundra TRD Pro has, what was it called? ESE, so enhanced sound, or engine sound enhancement. So it makes the, pumps the exhaust note through the speaker system, which is a little bit of a bummer. So I personally don't like that synthetic sound, a synthetic feel as you get on the throttle. This, not the case though. This isn't trying to be any tougher than what it really is, and no synthetic feel to it. Very, very soft and smooth driving down the road here. On par with the Land Cruiser, perhaps even a little bit smoother. This does have a 10-speed automatic, whereas the Land Cruiser has that 8-speed automatic. I'm going to turn right here. So I should have mentioned it from the beginning. You have, I think, 4 different modes. You have Eco Mode, Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus. So right now, I believe we're in Normal. Let me double check though. So you have the knob right here, just to the right, to adjust it. Let's see what we're in. Okay, so now we're in Sport Plus. So right now, the throttle response should be a little bit snappier, and the overall feel, tightening of the suspension, the steering, everything should be just a bit more tight. So we're gonna keep to the speed limit, right around there, of course. But I'll get on throttle here a few times during this drive to kind of give you guys a sense of really what that 409 horsepower and 479 torque feels like in here. But overall, I mean, there's a reason why this is supreme luxury, guys. It is so smooth and just, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it really is a plush ride. Between the comfortable seats here, the overall just swanky interior all around, and the phenomenal air suspension here, adjustable suspension, you can go up and down with it. It really is just a phenomenal experience. But the question is it a $127,000 phenomenal experience? And that's the tough part, right? But if you're shopping and for this particular vehicle, perhaps you're not too concerned about the final price tag. Granted, this one, to be fair, this is the Ultra Luxury LX600, so it is the top of the line, top trim, and substantially more than the standard LX600 or even the premium, really, which I believe it starts at right around 88,000. So this is substantially more, but you get all of the bells and whistles throughout it, to include relaxation mode that will allow you to get a massage in here, to include the reclining back seats there, which is pretty awesome. The bummer about this one, from a family guy's stance, is, you know, it is a four-seater. It's kind of a bummer. So I'll kind of show you. I'm keeping my eyes on the road, but I'll let you peek back there. You know, you got a four-seater. You got the giant center infotainment and, you know, climate / relax seat control modes there in the center, which, you know, takes up the whole center space. It looks nice and very intuitive, and it allows for such a comfortable experience for the two people that sit back there. But if you're like me and you have 3 kiddos, it is not ideal. So I'll get on it here in a second, kind of show you. I'll slow down a little bit and just get on throttle. So we're going about 40 right here. We'll get up to 60 real fast and slow down. So full throttle. So definitely a lot of pep to it. A lot of pep. And I tell you what, for 9 out of 10 people, this is going to be way more than what you need when it comes to just the overall performance and raw driving feel to this. You know, I mean, unless you're a total adrenaline junkie, you're going to be very pleased with this. The Tundra Tier 2 Pro, the iForce Max, it really does crank. I mean, that is a thrilling drive. Even by comparison to this, the sheer acceleration out of that iForce Max is noticeably better. But then again, you're getting 583 horsepower in that compared to the 479 in here. So over 100 more torque that throws you back into your seat in that one. You know, the overall feel of the steering wheel, like I said, all the materials in here are premium and luxury feeling. All the leather is so nice to the touch. Even leather up on the dash, right, with this nice stitching. You have the head-up display. You guys probably can't see it from where, I don't think you can in your view here, but I see it just fine. A little bit of a glare from the sun. Got the black headliner, which is a plus, but they did not do that in the Tundra Tier 2 Pro, which is a little bit of a bummer. I don't always get on the freeway, but when I do, I'm behind a slow F-250. So this is, and I'm not wicked smart on this vehicle, guys, if you haven't picked up on that already, but I do believe that they upgraded to I should have double checked, but an electric steering rather than, I believe it was a hydraulic steering before. So that you get in like, I'm just kind of comparing it to the Land Cruiser in that regard too. You know, it feels much lighter, and it doesn't feel truck-like by any means. And this is a body-on-frame design, right? So this truly is that old rugged platform. Granted, it was re-engineered. The whole body-on-frame design is lighter. I think it's about just under 300 pounds lighter than the previous LX570. And it feels light. It feels nimble. Whereas the steering in the Land Cruiser in particular, it is so heavy. And honestly, that's one of the first things you notice too, especially if you're like most Land Cruiser buyers. You probably have owned, or you're coming from, a 4Runner. And forgive me guys, I'm talking about the Land Cruiser while driving an LX, but yeah, it is a huge difference between that Land Cruiser and this, which, you know, they're stepbrothers essentially, you know, the LX and Land Cruiser, of course. But you notice that heavy steering in that Land Cruiser right away, especially coming from the 4Runner, which is so much lighter. And it's good and bad, right? I mean, I think having the heavier steering, it does add a unique feel to the vehicle, which, like I said, it truly is good and bad depending on the type of person you are. It feels more sturdy. It feels like you're driving a bank vault. It kind of adds to the overall heft feeling of the vehicle, the sturdiness of the vehicle. So you guys are probably seeing the gauge cluster flicker within the frame rate here, within the camera here, but that is due to the frame rate just being on par just as fast as the gauge is there. But it's not flickering, of course, in real life. I'm not going to tinker too much with the tools here, or all the buttons and options. But really, if you're going to be traveling across country, I can't imagine doing it in any better vehicle. This has better turn radius, as you'd imagine. It has a smaller, almost said wheel radius, but from wheel to wheel, I think it's 112 inches. The wheel, I keep calling it wheel radius. Gosh, what is it called? It'll come back to me. But I mean, it isn't as long as a Tundra, of course. And a Tundra, and forgive me guys, I did mention it having a really good turn radius like the previous Tundra, but the more I drive it, the more I drove that around, I realized it wasn't as tight as the previous Tundra. The previous Tundra almost defied physics when it came to that turn radius. It didn't feel like anything that big should have that phenomenal of a turn radius. So that's one thing that I always loved about it, and a reason why I even consider getting that previous generation Sequoia too, the 22 and older Sequoia. So something about being able to whip around, do a U-turn anywhere, that really is a nice peace of mind to have. So this one does have, of course, like the lane keep and all the other safety bits that you would imagine, that you would expect from such a tech-riddled vehicle here. For me, like I mentioned, I mean, the fact that this particular example that I'm driving is the 4-seater, the Ultra Luxury, it is too much for me. Obviously, not just so much price tag, that's a ton too, big pill to swallow, but just too much tech in here for my personal liking. But I can see so many people loving this just because it has every single creature comfort and some within this vehicle. It is completely overflowing with the niceties within here. I was driving to work, so I had this for the last couple days here, and I drove it to work yesterday, and one thing that it did end up doing that bothered me a little bit, and again, this probably shouldn't bother me, but it did. I was getting really close to the individual, and we're not going to get sporty here. I was getting really close to the individual in front of me, as two cars in front of him ended up slamming on their brakes. So the person in front of me, of course, I snuck up on him pretty quick. I got about maybe 5 feet away from him, and the Lexus, the safety features here, it slammed on the brakes. And I still had a few feet. I mean, once you get really close to a vehicle, the camera will pop up here and show you how close you are to the vehicle in front of you. And I'm used to getting fairly close if in situations like that on purpose to some degree. So I'm not slamming on the brakes for the person behind me to come slam into me, right? So I purposely try my best to avoid slamming on the brakes, but it did it for me, and I remember just hated that. So I don't know. Sometimes I think all these additional safety features, although all it takes is that one time saving you from a bad situation to kind of justify having them. But for me, personally, I think it's just, I don't know. I like to avoid getting all the nannies in a vehicle, for lack of better terms. So while we're here at the light, can I remind you of the nice premium feel and features in here? So this is actually a nice touch here. You have a nice spot to put your of course your phone, which everybody has on them as they get in the vehicle, and they end up kind of throwing in the cup holders or right up front here in every vehicle you have, or some sort of stowaway in here. But this is perfect, right? Because you can throw it here. The Apple CarPlay in here is phenomenal. I would argue the Tundra was a little bit better as far as the placement goes, because if you're going to use your phone for your GPS, even if you have navigation and you're integrated within your system, most people tend to actually leverage their phone, right? We're all like that, or adapted to the CarPlay here. So it's seeing your text messages and all that stuff, assuming you're not connected to your screen here. It is nice to have that within view, just to peek down. Not to mention that one had that wireless charging that you set it up against. For me, it was a little finicky, if you guys remember, but I'm sure they'll iron that out as they really start rolling them off the shelf here. Trying to think what else I could show you. So up here, we have the digital, the kickback, or a standard. You kind of get the digital where you're using the cameras out back, which is nice. Yeah, sorry guys, remember that one time I did a driving video and I sat at a stoplight for 40 minutes? Well, this is what you get, I guess. So we'll pop into the parking lot here. I'll kind of show you just how tight the turning radius is. So yeah, the steering just feels so light, and that's totally due to the electric steering. So I'll do a little U-turn here. So awesome turn radius, guys. It doesn't get much better than this, if I'm being honest. So this really is similar to how I remember that Tundra, and the wheelbase in that Tundra was much longer than this, of course. So I am always a huge fan of that. I remember once upon a time I had purchased a old Land Rover, like I'm talking late 90s, while I lived in Italy for a bit, and it was awful. And that was reason enough for us to want to sell that thing immediately. You know, we bought it. It was kind of on a whim, but you guys know me, and it just wasn't. Just that turning radius bothered me so much. Doing 12-point turns, doing the Austin Powers turnarounds was such an annoying thing. So at any rate, guys, I'm pulled over here. Just wanted to share that real quick driving experience with you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. But appreciate you watching as always. Until next time.